The pandemic mantra of "we're all in this together" didn't feel especially true this week. The provincial government says any delays to COVID-19 vaccines are Ottawa's fault. And after a mob broke into the U.S. Capitol building, dozens of people told Saskatchewan's premier the same thing needs to happen in Ottawa. For more on all of this, we've reached Adam Hunter, who covers politics for CBC Saskatchewan. Adam, what is the latest when it comes to the vaccine rollout in Saskatchewan?
Yeah, we heard this week from Dr. Saqib Shahab, who reminded people that in January and February, most likely it was going to be slow going, that everyone's excited that there's a vaccine here. They want to get their lives back to normal. But he did tell people in December and in January again this week that the rollout initially will be slow because we're getting a fixed amount of vaccine in intervals from the federal government and the Pfizer and Moderna producers of those vaccines. Now, people are wondering why Saskatchewan is behind other provinces in giving out the vaccine this week. Paul Merriman said that they're expecting, the health minister said they're expecting about 30,000 total doses in January when you combine what they got on December 31st with what they're expecting. A lot of that's going to be going to healthcare workers that have received their first dose, and then also up to northern Saskatchewan in remote areas. Both Dr. Shahab and Paul Merriman saying that it's a little more complicated in the initial stages to get the vaccines that have to be kept extremely cold up to those northern areas. Dr. Shahab saying also that when you thaw one of the vaccines out, you need to administer it within days so it doesn't go bad. They don't want to waste any, of course, because it's in such high demand. But Fiona, as you know, and you can see on social media, people are getting really antsy about being able to get the vaccine, especially for those in long-term care and seniors who are most at risk of dying from COVID-19.
Well, it was hard to look away from events in the U.S. this week. But when Scott Moe criticized events there, many people criticized him on social media. How did this go over with the premier?
Well, the premier called the events disturbing and said, this isn't a reflection of democracy. He was watching it closely. And it's interesting, Fiona, depending on what social media site you look for news or you look for information, Facebook commenters, the ones that are deemed most relevant, that's because of Facebook's algorithm. You get bumped up to the top in the comments section with the most engagement. On the premier's page, he had about 1,600 comments as of yesterday, which is a large number for a post. And a lot of those comments were saying, as you mentioned in your intro, that Canada could be next. That the government, I asked them yesterday about their social media policy when some of the comments get into spreading conspiracy theories, misinformation. The government says that it does have a social media policy that people must follow, that they have people watching these comments, moderating them for language and other racist language, things like that. But they want to also allow people to have the right to free speech, to debate. They encourage people to go away from the comment section to look for reputable information. But they also say people need to choose their words wisely. If you go over to Twitter, the premier was getting criticized for maybe saying not enough, people saying that he needed to be stronger and call out some people that are spreading misinformation or extremism here in Saskatchewan online. And yesterday I talked to Ryan Miley, the opposition leader, who said, this is in danger of happening in Saskatchewan. We're not immune to this. We have people who share some of the views that we saw in the U.S. and that politicians and just the general public has a duty to call this out when they see it.
Well, Adam, it's hard to believe all of this happened just in the first week of the new year. What can we expect for week 2?
Yeah, Fiona, we didn't even mention Joe Hargrave stepping down and resigning from cabinet after his trip to the U.S. That happened this week. I know that's hard to believe, but that was this week. Next week, I think what people need to keep an eye on is next Friday. That's the day, January 15th, when we see the restrictions that we saw put in place in December and early and late November, they were extended until January 15th. At the minimum, we saw some provinces this week who extended their restrictions, like Alberta and Ontario, into the future. So we'll have to see what Saskatchewan does. We do have rising cases here over the last number of days after kind of a plateau, but we will be watching for that next week. And usually the government makes their announcement about restrictions, measures, a couple days before they are set to expire. So that's something people should watch for next week.
Well, thank you so much, Adam.
You're welcome, Fiona.
Adam Hunter covers politics for CBC Saskatchewan.